All right, welcome to our basic spinning top design tutorial for Tinkercad. We're going to make a top for 3D printing. That's why it has this orientation. We'll have to print it flat from the base plate up. So we're going to go over a couple things. It should be very short. It's 4 shapes to make this spinning top. We will start with the half sphere. We'll drag out that shape. We'll click this left corner. I'm going to take the measurement. I'm going to hit 60, hit tab to go to the other one, 60. 60 by 60 with a height of 10. You could take this one, very similar look. We're going to take this little top angle changer here. We're going to hit this inside one so we can lock it on 180. If you do this outside one, it becomes really hard to be specifically 180. This one just goes in increments of 22.5 degrees. So we just flip it 180. Super easy that way. Hit Control D to duplicate. Now you have a duplicated shape. Do the same 180 thing. Because the height of this first shape was 10, we're going to click this black cone shape, bring it up to 10. Go too high, click this white box over here. We're going to type in 10. Much easier. Now we have 2 shapes. So we're going to come up here and we're going to make it 1 shape, or you can just press Control G, make it 1 shape. Perfect. Oopsies. I forgot a whole. Yeah, okay. Sorry, let's go back forward. All right, 1 shape. Then my favorite for the tip, okay, is a very short, rounded tip. 3D printers don't do super great coming to a very tippy tip point, and also it just tips over easier. Tops kind of oscillate and wobble a little bit, so you don't want it to just tip off that tiny tip. It's going to tip over very quickly and easily. You want to be able to like spin and wobble and stay on a fairly rounded tip. It's going to be better. For this one, make sure you max out the steps here on this. If you don't, it'll look really janky. You want to make it as rounded as possible in rounded as possible in Tinkercad. So that's always something I recommend. The same thing will happen like with a sphere. You want to max out sides to 64. You can see it goes a lot more rounded shape than this janky pattern. We might have use for that sort of janky look on certain prints, but not this one. Okay, this is way too big of a tip. We're going to make it much smaller. On a top, you want it real small. You could do 3. We'll hit tab 3. So it's 3 by 3. We want to make it much shorter. We're going to hit 3. Okay, we know this is 20 high, so we're going to grab our tip. We're going to bring it to about 20. Now we want to center these so the tip is center. One of the important parts of building a top is that it is very symmetrical. We're going to hit F so we center our look here. It's very symmetrical. If it's not super symmetrical, you're going to get a wobble. So sometimes students like to do something like this, add something to their top or some spikes or something. It becomes very difficult to keep it symmetrical that way. So your best tops are just going to be as symmetrical as possible so they stay spinning as long as possible. To build the handle, the simplest way to do that would be with a cone. We're going to come down and make the side 64. Again, that's just going to round it up. A nice tip or a nice handle so we can maybe spin it on our hands real good. Get it between 2 hands and get a nice spin, or grab it real good with our hand. Get it going. We'll make it a height of, let's call it 60. So that would be 6 centimeters, 60 millimeters. But we're going to cut off the top 10 anyways because we want the top to be flat so we can print on that top. So we're going to grab this hole. Let's go ahead and group these real quick and then scooch it over. Okay, we're going to hit F. So this is there. We're going to grab this hole. I pulled out a hole and I'm going to bring it up to 50 on the plane. Now I'm going to grab this real quick. We don't want it this thick. That's kind of a little bit too thick. So we're going to make it 1 centimeter at the base, 1 centimeter, 10 by 10 at the base. The top it gets very narrow, but at 50, we're going to grab this. I hit L. You could hit a line up here. That's going to center it. Then we're going to grab it. We're going to group it. Now you have this flat base. Let's pull this over. We're going to grab this again, keep it in the inside so it goes to 180. This should be 23 tall if we count our tip plus the height. Perfect. Okay, which means we want to bring this guy up to about 23. I was just like typing it in. Much simpler. grab both shapes, hit L to align it, and then we want to center it and both ways. Oh, whoopsies. Hit center, center. Okay, now it's centered. We're gonna hit F, so we get over here. Looks super centered. Group it together. Now you have one shape. Now we're gonna flip it over. Okay, the final thing to always double check is you want it down on this build plate. If it and you want it flat on the build plate, completely perpendicular, that plane of this flat plane, that's gonna be where the 3D print starts. If you don't build it flat on the build plate and you have it at an angle or something weird, the 3D print's gonna tip over. We're gonna need all these supports and weird stuff. We don't want that if we can avoid that. Awesome. Okay. But we'll have it flat. To make it, you just hit the D. So if you go, like you saw, I went lower than the actual build plate. You can hit like, oopsies, I went all the way below. What did I do? Just hit D. It'll bring it flat on that build plate, the lowest point. And that's perfect. We're going to hit Control H, I believe, to hide that guy. If we were to bring this out as an STL, we would just export it as an STL. We want to make sure either A, you've hidden all your other stuff, or B, you actually select this and export the STL. That way you're not pulling out random other shapes into your STL file, and then it should be ready to put in the slicer and print it out. In an hour or so, you'll have a great little spinning top.